June 12, 1990. 350 agents arrive from Madrid disembark in Villa Garcia de Arusa without prior notice. Not a word to local authorities. Judge Baltazar Garzon's order is categorical. Not a single leak to Galicia. Operation Necora has just begun. Among those detained, one name shines with its own light: Laureano Oubiña Pinheiro, known as El Pajarito, the Little Bird. 44 years old, owner of Paso Bayón, an estate of 275 hectares of vineyards in Noble Stone. A man who drives a Porsche, organizes dinners with politicians and businessmen, and whose wealth defies any legal explanation. The image of the helicopter landing in the estate's gardens becomes a symbol. It is the beginning of the end of impunity. But there is a crack in the official narrative. That day, not a single gram of drugs is found at Paso Bayón. The cellars are searched, the ground excavated beneath the vines, every room inspected. Nothing. The accusation rests on the statements of two turncoats, Ricardo Portabales and Manuel Fernandez Padín, former members of the clans who have decided to collaborate with justice in exchange for protection. Portabales assures that Oubiña moved tons of cocaine. Padín describes operations, routes, names, but physical evidence does not appear. Only money remains, a fortune impossible to justify, and a man who has never been convicted of cocaine trafficking, but whose name will be forever associated with Galician drug trafficking. The enigma is clear. How does one build an empire without leaving a trace? How does one traffic drugs for decades and avoid definitive conviction? What structure, what network of complicity, what system allowed Laureano Oubiña to operate in plain daylight? The answer lies in the origin, in the years of hunger, of smuggling, of silence, in the construction of a criminal model that was not only Galician, but European, in the alliance between the sea, money, and political power. To understand the fall, one must understand the rise. And to understand the rise, one must return to Cambados in the 1960s, when it all began with tobacco. Cambados, 1963. Laureano Oubiña is 17 years old and has worked in his parents' store since he was 10. Franco's Spain is a closed, poor country where hunger still marks the rhythm of lives. In the Rías Baixas, fishing is sustenance, but the sector is going through a deep crisis. European quotas, competition, depletion of fishing grounds. Families seek alternatives, and the most profitable is black market trade. Smuggling, Oubiña learns it from his uncle. Small quantities of diesel, coffee, basic products that cross the border with Portugal. Minimal risk, modest profit, but enough to survive. At 18, he marries Rosa Maria Otero. They will have 8 children. He is a man of hard work with calloused hands, who travels the fairs distributing products from street vendors. But ambition beats beneath the routine. In 1978, at 32 years old, he receives his first sentence: 9 months in prison for bribery. A minor offense, a stain on the record, but also a lesson. The system can be bought. Wills can be negotiated. Loyalties purchased with money. In 1983, he divorces Rosa Maria and begins a relationship with his secretary, Esther Lago. With her, he will have 2 more daughters. Esther will be his companion in the ascent, and she will die with him in the twilight, in a traffic accident in Cambados in February 2001. The leap to tobacco occurs in the 1980s. The business is simple. Speedboats cross the Atlantic, collect shipments on the high seas, and unload in the estuaries. Blonde tobacco from the rafts floods Galician bars. The police look the other way. Politicians receive envelopes. Businessmen launder the money. It is a parallel economy, perfectly oiled, where everyone wins, and no one asks questions. Oubiña is part of a cooperative with other names that will soon be legend: Cito Miñanco, Manuel Charlene, Vicente Otero, alias Terito. They are the pioneers, those who convert artisanal smuggling into an industry. But tobacco has a ceiling, and in Morocco, someone makes them an offer. Driss Taiha, a Moroccan who kept Oubiña's accounts, proposes hashish. The mantra is irresistible: less work, same risk, much more money. Oubiña consults with Esther. Both have doubts. Hashish is drugs. Tobacco was something else. But money speaks louder than morality. Don Laureano, who will never be convicted for cocaine, decides to make the leap. First, he helps a Moroccan organization introduce the merchandise. Then he establishes contact with a Pakistani network that traffics on a large scale. The tons begin to flow, and with them, the money. Millions of pesetas that become properties, companies, power. In 1987, Oubiña buys Paso Bayón together with Cito Miñanco and Pablo Vioque for 275 million pesetas, although the real owners are he and Esther. But power is not built with money alone. It is built with complicity, and in 1980s Galicia, complicity reaches the highest levels. Oubiña finances campaigns for Alianza Popular, the party that will later become the Popular Party. He pays for rallies, dinners, political events. He is not the only one. The narcos have bought the police, who go to work in Mercedes. They control the local judicial apparatus. They infiltrate the institutions. Pedro Vioque, lawyer for Miñanco and Oubiña, is president of the Chamber of Commerce of Villa Garcia and a member of Alianza Popular. Jose Alfredo Beagondar, mayor of Oak Grove, cannot assume his second term in 1991 because he is in prison for drug trafficking. The system does not combat drug trafficking. The system is drug trafficking, and everything works because there is silence. The mothers of drug addicts begin to organize in the mid-80s. Carmen Avendaño leads the Erguete Foundation, but their children do not die from hashish. They die from heroin, which arrives by other routes, from Turkey, from the Middle East. However, the Galician narcos become the symbol of the scourge. They are visible, ostentatious. Vioque in his white Ferrari Testarossa, Charlene in his Porsche 911 Turbo, Oubiña in his estate surrounded by vineyards. They are the face of evil. And when Galician society awakens, it is against them that fury is directed. The mothers demonstrate at the gates of Paso Bayón. They shout, they demand justice, but they do not know that justice is already on its way, and that it comes from Madrid. The 1980s are the golden age. Oubiña does not hide. On the contrary, he displays his wealth brazenly. Paso Bayón becomes his calling card, an estate from the 15th century with noble history, Albarino vineyards, stone halls. Oubiña will never live there. He is not interested in comfort. He is interested in the symbol, possessing what previously only aristocrats possessed, planting his flag in the heart of Galicia, saying, "This is mine, and no one can stop it." Meanwhile, the business expands. The Galician networks establish contact with Colombian cartels. The connection is forged in prisons. Manuel Charlene, in Barcelona's Modelo prison, meets drug traffickers from the Medellin cartel. Cito Miñanco coincides in Carabanchel with Jorge Luis Ochoa, one of the cartel's leaders. But the definitive alliance is not born in Spain. It is born in Switzerland, in money laundering channels, and in Panama, where the cartels have their fronts. Pedro Vioque, Oubiña's lawyer, has contacts with the Cali cartel. Panamanian companies multiply, shell companies, opaque accounts, a financial engineering that allows moving millions without leaving a trace. The model is sophisticated. The speedboats leave Galicia toward the high seas. There they meet with fishing boats that bring them merchandise from Colombia. The unloading takes place in international waters, 300 kilometers from the coast. Then the speedboats return to the estuaries, where they unload among the mussel rafts. The packages are distributed throughout Europe. Spain is only the gateway. The final destination is France, Germany, United Kingdom, Italy. The Galician clans become the trusted intermediaries of the Colombians. And Oubiña is one of the most reliable. He never informs. He never betrays. He delivers. Money flows without control. It is invested in properties, in legal businesses, in front companies. Oubiña has companies in Panama, accounts in Switzerland, wealth distributed throughout Galicia. He buys more estates, more land, more influence. He finances political parties, not only Alianza Popular, also the UCD. Years later, Oubiña will declare that the millions he financed to the Popular Party were never returned to him. But those he financed to the UCD were, cent by cent, with interest. It is a revealing detail. It shows that drug trafficking is not a marginal phenomenon. It is a structural phenomenon that crosses all layers of power, that contaminates democracy from within. But absolute power generates fractures. Not all narcos agree on making the leap to cocaine. Vicente Otero, alias Terito, the patriarch of the cooperative, refuses. He says that hashish is one thing, cocaine, another. That the risk is greater, that society will not forgive it, but the majority votes in favor. The business with the Colombians is too lucrative, and those who oppose are left behind. Torito retires, others continue, and the money keeps coming. But so do the suspicions. In 1989, a convicted trafficker, Ricardo Portobales, sends a letter to Judge Luciano Varela of Pontevedra. In it, he offers to collaborate. He tells names, routes, operations. Varela understands that the case exceeds him, and he transfers it to the National Court. There, Baltasar Garzón takes charge and begins to build the operation that will change Galicia forever. While Garzón investigates, Oubiña continues living like a king. He attends weddings, dinners with politicians, social events. In 1989, Cito Miñanco is named favorite son of Cambados. The mayor from the Popular Party presents him with the distinction, while the DEA, Interpol, and Baltasar Garzón are looking for him. It is the height of impunity, but also its end. Because social pressure is growing, the mothers against drugs multiply. Heroin has killed thousands of young people. Galician society no longer tolerates silence. And when Garzón decides to act, he does so with force. On June 12, 1990, in the early morning hours, the helicopters take off toward the Rías Baixas, and Laureano Oubiña's kingdom begins to crumble. The helicopter lands at Paso Bayón. Baltasar Garzón descends. The cameras capture the image. It is the perfect symbol, justice arriving from the sky to bring down the drug trafficking empire. The agents search every corner. They look in the cellars, under the vines, in the halls. Nothing, not a gram of cocaine, not a gram of hashish, only documents, accounts, papers that demonstrate an inexplicable fortune. Oubiña is arrested, also Esther Lago, also Cito Miñanco, Manuel Charlín, Marcial Dorado, José Darío Valado. 18 arrested in total, 19 clans dismantled, 1,700 kilos of cocaine seized in 3 phases. Operation Nicora is a media success, but judicially a failure. The trial is held in 1994. 48 defendants sit in the dock. Expectations are enormous. Galician society expects exemplary sentences, but reality is different. Garzón's investigation has cracks. The wiretaps are questioned. The court dedicates 40 pages of the sentence to analyzing the taps and censures Garzón for having exercised formal control, but not substantive. The statements of the turncoats also generate doubts. Ricardo Portobales will say years later that Operation Necora was a fraud, that they forced him to testify, that they prepared what he had to say. Manuel Fernández Padín insists that his testimony was the only real one, that Portobales invented. But the damage is done. The defense takes advantage of the contradictions. When the sentence arrives, disappointment is widespread. Of the 48 accused, 15 are acquitted. The rest receive minor sentences. Oubiña and Esther Lago are convicted of tax fraud and money laundering. 12 years in prison, but not for drug trafficking. It could not be proven. The Supreme Court reviews the case in 1996 and further reduces the sentences. It criticizes Garzón's irregularities. It acquits more defendants. The operation that was going to end Galician drug trafficking becomes a Pyrrhic victory. Media-driven but not judicial. However, something changes. The narcos are no longer untouchable. They can no longer display their wealth. They are no longer popular heroes. They are marked criminals, and the pressure will not cease. Oubiña leaves prison, but he falls again. In 1997, a truck with 5,741 kilos of hashish is intercepted in Martorell. It travels from Galicia to the Netherlands. Oubiña is accused of organizing the operation, sentenced 4 years and 4 months. In 1999, Esther Lago and David Perez Lago, son from Oubiña's first marriage, are arrested in Operation Ocaso. 13 tons of hashish on the ship Regina Maris. Oubiña manages to escape, but his stepson and his partner do not. Esther is released on bail, but the pressure is unbearable. On February 28, 2001, Esther Lago dies in a traffic accident in Cambados. Oubiña is widowed, and something breaks in him. The sentences accumulate. 6 years and 9 months for a seizure in Vigo. Another 6 years and 9 months for the 13 tons of the Regina Maris. Money laundering, tax fraud. The National Court gives him no respite. In 2010, the release date is set for July 2012. Oubiña has served 22 years in prison, more than any other hashish kingpin in Spain. He is, as he himself says, a scapegoat. But the system has not finished with him. In 2014, he returns to prison to serve 4 years and 7 months for money laundering, a sentence from 2012 that had been appealed. Rejected. In March 2017, the penitentiary surveillance judge grants him third-degree status. Oubiña is released. He is 71 years old. He has spent more than 30 years going in and out of prison, and all he has left is his name and his story. Pazo Bayon is no longer his. It was confiscated in 1995. The state leased it to Freixenet, which operated it for 13 years. In 2007, it is put up for public auction. The daughters of Oubiña and Esther Lago try to reclaim it. They allege that it is part of their mother's inheritance. The European Court of Human Rights authorizes the sale. In 2008, the Condes de Albaret winery acquires it for 13 million euros. Now it is a wine tourism center, an attraction. Tourists walk through the vineyards, taste the Albarino, visit the halls, and hear the story of the narco who owned it. Oubiña has lost everything except memory. Today, Laureano Oubiña sells clothes at Galician street markets, t-shirts with his face, with the Operation Necora slogan, with phrases like "better dead than a snitch." He has a brand, La Necora, by Laureano Oubiña. He also sells wine and books. His autobiography, Toda la Verdad, The Whole Truth, is in its 3rd edition. In it, he tells his version. He says he never trafficked cocaine, only hashish, that he was a transporter, not a drug trafficker, that the state is the biggest trafficker of all, that they treated him like shit, like refuse, that there are first-class prisoners, second-class, third-class, and that he was in the last category. In interviews, Oubiña does not keep quiet. He assures he has proof that he financed Alianza Popular. He says he will present that proof in court if they call him. He claims that Manuel Fraga, the day after Operation Necora, raised his voice in front of his house. Oubiña, that great drug trafficker, must be put in prison. When days before, Oubiña had paid for a dinner and a rally. He says he met with Mariano Rajoy 2 or 3 times. That Rajoy knew about the activities of the Galician narcos, that everyone knew, that everyone collected, and that no one has paid, only him. Oubiña has more than 50,000 followers on Instagram. He posts videos, photos, reflections. He criticizes mass tourism in Galicia. He says that he liked the beach to be empty at night. He jokes, he provokes, he plays with his image. He is an influencer of drug trafficking, a character of popular culture, and that outrages many. The families of drug addicts do not understand how he can commercialize his brand, how he can turn his story into business. But Oubiña responds, whoever feels offended should go to court. He does not repent. He does not ask for forgiveness. He insists that he served his sentence, that he paid, and that now he has the right to live. But Oubiña's legacy is not measured in t-shirts or books. It is measured in the structures he helped create, in the routes he opened, in the contacts he established. Because although he is out, Galician drug trafficking is still alive, more alive than ever. In 2019, more than 50 tons of cocaine were seized in Spain. Between November 2019 and April 2020, more than 14,000 kilos were seized in Galicia alone. Cocaine arrives on Galician coasts like never before. Prices are at historic lows, purity at highs, production in Colombia breaks records, and the Galician clans remain the trusted intermediaries. Cito Miñanco was arrested again in 2018 in Operation Mito. He was directing one of the most powerful organizations in Europe while enjoying third-degree status. Manuel Charlene died in 2021 at 89 years old. His clan continues to operate. David Perez Lago, Oubiña's stepson, is linked to Miñanco's organization. The new narcos are more discreet. They no longer drive Ferraris. They prefer BMWs or Mercedes. They do not buy estates. They invest in real estate abroad. They do not finance parties. They corrupt from the shadows. They have learned from the mistakes of their predecessors, and they are harder to catch. 35 years after Operation Necora, Galicia remains the gateway for cocaine into Europe. Semi-submersibles arrive from Colombia. Sailboats unload on the high seas. Containers hide tons among legal merchandise. Techniques evolve. But the essence does not change, because the cocaine business is the business that never dies. As long as there is demand, there will be supply. As long as there is money, there will be corruption. As long as there is silence, there will be impunity. And Laureano Oubiña knows it. That is why he smiles at the street markets. That is why he sells t-shirts with his face. That is why he says he was never a drug trafficker, but a transporter. Because deep down, nothing has changed. The estuaries remain the same, the sea the same, and the shadows longer than ever. Oubiña was the lord of the estuary who flooded Spain with hashish. But the true lord never had a name. It was the system, the silence, the complicity. And that lord is still alive, waiting, in some corner of the Rías Baixas, where the Atlantic kisses the coast, and where the next shipment is already on its way.